Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you again. We are meeting with Bill to discuss the wasteless world once again. What will come will be surprise for us, so as for you. So let's deep dive into the snow this time because it is here, so as in the US. So it doesn't matter where we are, we have the snow. We just shouldn't invite anyone from Australia because he or she will be really, really frozen, probably. So, the last time it was quite interesting discussion again, and I am looking forward to the discussion today and to continue. Have you spoke with your wife, with Galina, about the way that she is giving us the the way how to build the future through her beautiful work?
She has always looked to reuse. I don't think she uses the word recycle, but to repurpose. She hates to throw things away. As my mother and father hated to throw things away. They lived through the Second War. They lived through the Great Depression in the 1930s. I'm looking over my shoulder to see if I can show you, but no, she's taken it with her into her, even in her business meetings. Uh, she knits. So what she does is she loves to knit. She's a mathematician by trade, computer programmer, and so she's very detailed, and she loves to plan the patterns and the number of rows. It would drive me crazy, but she loves to do that. And so instead of going to the store and buying skeins of yarn, um, she goes to the used clothing stores. We have one chain of them here called Goodwill. There's also one called Savers, and she buys the best cashmere sweaters that she can find. And oftentimes she buys them for $2 a piece or $4 a piece, and then she will come home and clean them, and then she will harvest the sweater. And by that I mean she takes the sweater apart and um, and twirls it up into two threads at a time, or four threads, or even eight threads at a time for a very thick blanket. And she loves to make her blankets. So she's in a business meeting in the next room now, and in her lap is um, the next blanket, which has a picture of a big pink balloon on it. And this blanket is for our new granddaughter who just turned 1 year old.
Oh,
So
that's
she will at some point probably um, use that with her own children and maybe her children's children. Something in me tells me that these blankets will be around many generations from now. So to me, that's a small role model. Not small really, but it doesn't change the world, but it changes her world a little bit. And that mindset of reusing and repurposing is is wonderful to see, and it's a good role model for me.
I will show you something which I get every year. Oh, my mom and my dad make a Christmas tree for me. And this year they made this one. So it's a lot of things there and something is broken. But what is interesting, so if you look at it, you will never get what is made from because it's made from, this is used for the to transport the eggs.
Oh, egg cartons.
Eggs carton. And
Yes. Oh, isn't that interesting?
I'm creative. And right now, even with a really big seizure of her hands, this is her big trouble. he was able to do this beautiful thing. And I think that all these are not, they seems to be small, but all the products are big. Before we started at this meeting, I got from the Industry 5.0 ambassador in Finland, very interesting news. She sent me a post about a construction company which reconstructed a building, office building generally. And they did use 95% of all what was for demolition. So 342 old windows for recycling sales, steel frames of the interior walls utilized for the new steel glass walls in the offices. Old bricks were bricked and used for the building. Old railings restored and put back in place. The light gravel for filling the precast concrete in the planting pools in the yard, protective material on the walls used for plasterboard structures, and. 95%. In a construction, which in my country, everything must become waste because of the law. So these are the real role models generally. And they show that no matter which industry or which work we do, we can do it differently. And this is great. So this is simply great. So
It's a mindset. It's a way to think.
and at the same time, it's even a cost reduction. Because if I can imagine, if you will buy the blanket, it will cost from this material a lot of money. So as all the new stuff for the building. So we are speaking about both, and this is why so many anticipated, because the banks do not need to borrow money anymore, because we do not need them if we use the resources properly. I was just surprised at the end of last week and beginning this week. On Friday, announced Jaguar Land Rover that they created new advisory board because they would like to go in the direction of Industry 5.0. That's written in the statement, which is great. They have 8 members. I am not on yet, but I hope will be one. Generally, all the members are related to artificial intelligence, computers, and similar meta. But I think that it can help companies to go in the right direction if they would like to go in the direction 5.0 if they contact me. What do you think?
So the difficulty with Industry 5.0 is that it has become a marketing slogan. And every company that mentions it or uses Industry 5.0 are doing it to sell their own products. And it's not so much having a vision of the future of a wasteless world. It's not so much that. It's in fact it's very little that. It's using the words like a donut economy or a circular economy, or there's a whole dictionary full of these words that have been used now. And the marketing people at each company put those together in a way to make it look like that company is interested in saving the planet and having a wasteless world. And in fact, the actual commitment to that goal usually is just about this thick. It's not very deep at all. Um, and yet, if they say it, people will gobble it up. They like to hear this. They like to hear nice things, and so it's that's probably one of the biggest impediments or constraints towards actually getting a realistic Industry 5.0, as you describe it, adopted by more people because they think they know it. And what they think they know is advantageous to selling more goods. That's it. That's a difficulty.
Uh, on the other hand, that's the beautiful part about our work, because if you enter something which is really ill, which is really bad in some way, so even a small and tiny things which change it will be visible immediately. So this is why I like to invite people here into my office. You know, it's a small space, but
Right.
every single item has a story, which I know because it's part of my own story. And it is interesting to see the faces of the people who enter, and many of those feel like in a big toy store, looking
Right.
at the things, taking pictures, thinking about what can be done and how can be done and how it can be done differently. And they leave with this mindset. That's great, simply. That's simply great. So this is why, in some way, the misuse of the term helps to spread the message. Because if the people
Right.
will do understand, then it will not be so easy for anyone to say, I am Industry 5.0 just because whatever, but they will ask the right questions. And this is what our talks and everything is helping to. So it will be great.
Right. As you're talking, I'm reminded of a Brazilian author by the name of Paulo Coelho, and he's more spiritual um, than than I think the Wasteless World is spiritual on a different level. But one of his themes is that in every one of us there is both good and bad, and for the most terrible person in the whole world, the most terrible person who's ever walked the world, there is that speck of white of good. Um, and just as the best, the saints, when they walk the world, there is a speck of black, of bad in them. And so it's really up to us, I think, to in the bad person to respond to and to talk to that white speck, and and as a community to think about how we nurture that white speck and make the white speck bigger, uh, and 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 over time it does. Uh, I was I was just reading this morning an article um, about guns, which in America is a big topic, and it looks as though the politicians have begun to listen, and there have been a couple of laws passed. A couple of several of the lawmakers who were against any gun safety rules uh, lost their elections, and other lawmakers see that and have begun to distance themselves from the radical gun people. So I see that as the white speck, and that if the rest of us can talk about it and can publicize it and can support the white speck, that white speck will continue to grow. So it's the same way I think with Wasteless World, right? That's what you were just saying.
It is. It is. Generally, I see these white specks in, for example, more and more companies and people are speaking about Industry 5.0 not as a revolution, but they call it evolution. But if you look in a history, I do not remember to read any book which spoke about industrial evolutions. All the time it was just revolution. So it's a matter of last 1 year maybe when these started. The second is the human-centric, which unfortunately in this, let's say, misleading concept, human-centric means human will become just a component of the system to do something what the robot cannot do, which is wrong. But just recently, I have read two papers, one from Indonesia, I think, the second from, I don't remember, it doesn't matter. And they already start to speak about the humans a different way. And just before we met today, I was, and I will send it out to you, there was an article about pharma, so about this segment, and it's connected to Industry 5.0 in a way which I will send you this article. So I saw it before. It's written by a company which developed and deliver and sell software. But there is one sentence which make me laugh. Let me check whether I will find it. It should be open here, ready to send it to you. Not here, here. It's written there. To make it bigger. Also, Industry 5.0 practices are already being adopted in the industry. Only 18% of the decision makers say they have a very good understanding of the concept. There's one of the sentences there. Nice.
I'm on one hand, I'm not surprised because it's it is complex in some ways, very simple in some ways, it's very complex in some ways, and so people tend to not engage in complexity because their own lives are already too complex. At the other hand, I'm surprised that 18% that only 18% claim to admit it because oftentimes the politicians and you call them the giants want to claim to know everything. So to claim only 18% of them to claim to understand the Industry 5.0 is surprising, and that's why you need to talk more. You need to give more keynote addresses. You need to publish more. These YouTube videos are important. We need more conversation on this topic because it's leading to a good place.
And that's the aim. So, and I realized that generally the Industry 4.0 was built on plans and promises. Industry 5.0 is built on the results. So
that's a good distinction. I like that distinction. Right.
I just had a discussion with one new member of the network, and he said he just need some money to do something. But I told him, no, you have to do something and then present the result. It must not be perfect, but if you will show that it exists really, then the people will believe you. And unfortunately, I have seen so many, and you know yourself, we discussed it last time, I think, and before, how good the new technology is that they can really pretend that you will hardly recognize that's not a reality. It looks like humans, it runs, it whatever, everything looks real. And they get a lot of money, a lot of funding for that, but in reality, nothing exists. And that's one of the issues which I try even to warn the investors, helping them to understand this difference. And today in the morning, I have one meeting with a company, and I said, okay, ask for this few questions, which will reveal whether it's reality or just a dream of someone. Of course, you can fund dreams, but you will not get your money back. And you see it with the Bitcoin and all these cryptocurrencies and so on, which both of us, we say, we don't understand this stuff. And right now, we have been better in predicting what will happen than all the experts who knows that it will never fall down, that it will be so safe that nothing will be safer than that. Unfortunately, it's not the truth.
one of the parts of the new of the world today is this virtual reality. I'm not talking about the headsets, but things like cryptocurrency, which there is a need for. We are going to get there, not the way that they just uh, crashed, but eventually they will get there. There are concepts like NFT, non-fungible, right? Um, there's a desire to live in a world that we create, a virtual world that we create, rather than in the real world. And and all the new technologies help people to believe that it's possible to live in a virtual world of our own creation. And and we will need to come to terms with that, um, because you know, and I know, we both, when we were younger, when we started becoming adults, we worked, and we understood money, and money takes on a very different concept now, to my grandson, to Noah, who is 6 years old, and he got a wallet, uh, and really loved that wallet, and asked people for money to put in his wallet. And uh, some people made him do a little job first, and then paid him. Um, Anyhow, he misplaced the wallet with all the money. I think maybe there was $10 or something, but he misplaced it. And so now he thinks about that all the time. He's still looking for it. We may find it. It's not a big house. We may still find it. But people's concept of reality, or concept of money, or concept of so many things is changing. And the change is happening more quickly. A friend of mine said that the pace of change today is the slowest you're going to see for the rest of your life. And that scares people. But it is changing. And the more that we talk about it, like you and I, and you and your network, or me and my other groups, and so on, it's through language that we think about the future. It's through the language. Even though you speak several languages, I speak one and a half poorly. But it's through that language, whatever that language is, that we are creating the future. You and I, in these weekly meetings, are creating the future, because it's taking some sort of shape in the different areas, in the healthcare area, or the money area, or the home, or work, or cities, or whatever it is. And some other people join in the conversation, and then they go back and have their own conversations, and then something happens, and something is created, or an understanding is reached, and that is part of the future. And so we are creating the future when we have these conversations. So we need to be very careful about what sort of future we are creating with this. So, um, again, I apologize for sometimes I feel like, oh, what I'm saying is interesting, so I just keep on talking, but I apologize.
I love it. I love it. You know, I had a yesterday. There is a quite unique program in Czech Republic where entrepreneurs are going to schools, to colleges generally, and they are delivering. They are sharing the information what is to be entrepreneur. You can be employee or entrepreneur. So we are sharing the entrepreneurship. We do not sell our products. We just sell how it is. What is the difference? And we just have a yesterday, because there is at the moment about 180 entrepreneurs already. It's a unique in the world. I never met something similar in such a systematic way. Quite interesting, because the kids who will leave the school soon, they are those who can choose. And generally, they choose their future, where they become employees or where they become entrepreneurs in some way. And I am speaking a lot of as well, and I all the time took most of the time there, which is crazy. And do people think that I am teacher or professional speaker and so on? Do not know the background and my speech disorder and nothing like that. But there is a very big difference when the speakers speak with passion and really deliver it in a language which is understood by the others. Or if you
Right.
use the special terms and so on, you spoke about the speed of change. You know, I am checking 3 times a day the Industry 5.0 development online, Google, and whatever. Listing it in the newsletter. Today is Tuesday. There are 50 news already related to Industry 5.0 in 2 days. So it's so fast. Just yesterday, two foundations, one from France and one from UK, sign an agreement that they will jointly do the work related to Industry 5.0.
Whose definition of Industry 5.0?
It's not written there. It was just a news published about this with these two guys generally who are signing, and I contact both, but I do not have a reply yet. It's too early.
And I see that as a good thing, even if they don't say we will work toward Michael Rada's vision of Industry 5.0, but simply to be inquisitive like children as to what is 5.0 and how can I influence 5.0, and their focus is on Industry 5.0. And that is very valuable because we get more people talking about it, which what I said a minute ago, we want people talking about it and trying to envision what the future holds. So good, that's good. I remember in a previous there was a company that I worked with for several years, and they made environmental chemical reference standards. That is the chemicals that are used in a laboratory to determine whether or not a sample of river water has pesticides in it or PCBs or whatever. And when new compounds that were being looked at, I remember the flame retardants in the early 2000s, and we used to track these. So we would say, okay, how many papers have colleges published this year on flame retardants, right? And this year was this many, next year was this many, and this was this many. And then one state, oftentimes California or a progressive state, would pass a law or some sort of guidelines. So you could chart this. And up here is where there's a federal law regulating how much of something. But 10 years before, we could see that coming because there were papers being written at the universities about the health effects of whatever the new compound was. PFOSs, or there's just a number of chemicals. They're all the time identifying new chemicals that may have bad health effects. So this is the same way that I look at the future and what's going to happen in the future. People tell me, you don't know what's happening in the future. Yes, I do. Not with precision, but there are data points all around us that if you understand this data point and that data point and a couple of them will be connected, and you'll start to see these trend lines going into the future. So you can't say that by the year 2035 all the cars will be electric, or you can't say that, but you can say that it's more and more happening, and that when that happens, then there are ripple effects to that, and other things happen. So the cars of the future we will not own. The cars of the future will be owned by large fleets, Uber, or General Motors, or whoever. Uh, and those large fleets will not have car insurance, right? Because they'll all be self-insured. The fleet's self-insured. They don't go out and buy car insurance from some insurance company. So what's happening to the insurance industry? And they will be electric. So what's happening to the petroleum industry? And so on and so on. So when you look at these trends and you see where they intersect, or you see the shiny objects like the car, an autonomous vehicle is just a shiny object. It doesn't do anything in itself, but its ripple effects, what it causes, has huge effects. All the cars now being computer controlled, and get that idiot with a cell phone texting to his girlfriend away from the car, right? Put him in the back seat where he belongs. And far fewer accidents, far fewer fatalities, far fewer people suing each other, far fewer. So the world changes. And so what does that world look like? And so that's why I like talking about it, because in fact you can see the future. Um, uh, and so that's what the book that you and I are working on, which is tentatively being called Our Wasteless World. And it looks at 6 or 8 different industries: the healthcare industry, and the education industry, and the mobility industry, and food and agriculture. Fascinating topics. And we have the data points today. There, the data points are here now, not all of them, but enough to see trends. And when you see trends, then you can see how the trends intersect and the ripple effects from the trends and so on. You can see the future. People are just too busy in their lives today, um, putting food on the table for the kids, or shoes on their feet, and a roof over their head, and working all the time, working. Um, and part of that is a problem also, because historically we come out of a very it's a consumer, it's a disposable mindset. I call it the mindset of more, more, more. I need a bigger car. I need a bigger house. I need more clothes. I need the latest fashions. I need, I need, I need, I need.
I just, I
Which was,
just, I just listened to very interesting keynote generally. I will try to find it and send it to you. And there was, the speaker spoke about the time when generally we changed the transportation from horse to cars. And his question was, do you know what happened to what the horses become? Because before, horse were a transportation, let's say device transporter. What the horses become after? Food. They become food. So here, when I listen to that, that's exactly the transformation which is breaking the silos, as we spoke about. Because if we just see it as a transportation, it will never become food, probably. And the same will be with cars. So why should I scrap all the bus when it's not driving, when it has a size of a small apartment and can be changed into small apartment? Many show it in a great way, how they transform the old schoolies, especially in the US, or old buses or whatever. Why should we scrap it? And there is the projection, then less flats will be needed because the people would be more flexible. They will have a tiny houses. Fine. Why not? And so this is why the complexity is so needed. The complexity of the image. This is why I'm so happy that we can work on this wasteless war image and put it in the words, in the book, and combine all these segments together to show
right.
the people that there is not a right and left. No. If I turn around, the right and left are on the other side. So, but I don't need to say that's right or left. I just was have the possibility or somebody offered me that I can have a speech to Transhumanist Party in the US. I never heard about them. I can send you the link. There exists. It's a political party in the US, so and they are represented in many states. But it looks like that I am too transhumanistic for them. So probably will deliver, but maybe we will see. So we have 4:20 about till the end, and then we will switch again and do the rest of 15 minutes on the original address. So it's quite interesting. I would like to leave you the last words of today's discussion, because it's so great to listen to you, because it's enriching.
What you just said about how the complexity and the different layers, and how the advancements in one area, the advancements in mobility impact the trends in other of these trends that we look at. So mobility and the changes in mobility, we're seeing that I'm seeing it in the newspapers all the time now, of the future of cities, and how the cities are becoming led by the Northern Europeans, the from the Netherlands or the Scandinavian countries and so on, making cities more pedestrian and human centric rather than car centric. We really are a car centric. Our cities are really car centric, but that's changing. Unfortunately, it cannot change overnight. They did some of that in Boston over here in Massachusetts, and they used to have a big interstate running right through the middle of Boston, 4 lanes, big divider, 4 more lanes right through the middle of Boston, and they put it underground, and so it was, I forget if it was 10 years or 15 years in the making, very expensive. And they called it the Big Dig because they dug it underneath. But now what's up above is what we call a greenway. It's walking areas, lots of trees, park benches, and many cities are doing that now. And so cars are not the the center. When I was growing up and I was a teenager, cars were the center of my universe. That's how I went out on a date. That's how I got to work. That's how I did everything. And the cars took on, I chose cars because of my ego. Either it was a big muscle car or it was anyhow. As we go forward, the automobile is becoming far less of the center of people's universe, right? I have a hybrid car now. When I was driving my daddy's car, uh, I could rev the gas pedal, hold down on the brake, right? Or with a standard, you can do it with a standard shift. And then we call it peel rubber. You would spin the tires.
We have 1 minute.
You spin the tires. My hybrid car now, I can't spin the tires no matter how hard I try. So anyhow, things are changing. We can see a lot of those trends now. I'd like to talk about it more. I'd like everybody to talk about it.
We will, and they will join us, and I'm sure they will ask us. And let me wish to everyone, have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe and free, because if you see on Bill or on my own life, we live meaningful lives. It took us time to realize that, but building the future can everyone. And we are just few of those who do it and who